This is Rudolph Dutel. He was born in France, Paris, in 1988. He studied at ESX School of Management from 2005 to 2010. When he finished his studies, he started working at Google as an enterprise sales. Afterwards, he started working at Buffer as the director of operations until 2017. It had 15 remote employees. In 2014, he founded Remotive.io, which helps professionals to go remote. It is the largest community in the world of remote workers. Motivations to become an entrepreneur. He first worked in a large company. He had to share an office where there was only 2 people with has a closed door and had to wear a suit and tie. In his second job, he moved from auditing to consulting. There were open floor plans where a lot of people can sit and where he didn't have his own office, which he preferred. He then moved to Google, which is pretty famous for his nice offices. He felt like Disneyland for adults. They had beanbags, unlimited food, fridges with beverages and snacks, and so on. Sometimes they had slides, couches, and toys. He preferred this environment as it was more pleasing to work in. However, even though he had a very nice environment at Google, he still had to go there every morning. He then worked at a startup called Buffer, where it is entirely remote, so they didn't have offices anywhere. This gave him flexibility to work wherever he wanted to work, like cafes, open spaces, or even home. This became his motivation to become an entrepreneur. As a result, he created his own startup, Remotive.com. Now, let's get into depth. He first started looking for resources when he started to work remotely. He looked for websites and articles that could help him do better. In the process, he encountered 2 problems. First, when does he start working? He started questioning some questions like, do I start to work in the mornings as soon as I get up? He found hard to find systems that would work for him to stay focused and motivated. The second problem was to know, when does he stop working? He started researching on the internet how remote workers work. He questioned himself about how to manage the different time zones and how remote workers should work. Since he did not find a lot of information on the internet, he started to write articles about the issues and his point of view. He searched for the best videos, articles, and podcasts for people that discussed that. He struggled between motivation, when do I get started, and sanity, when do I stop. He found out on his process that a lot of people had the same issues, freelancers and employees. He then noticed that people were interested in his articles and started to build up an audience. Fast forwarding 4 years later, he now has subscribers from 180 countries, 25,000 subscribers, and 100,000 page views per month. Difficulties and barriers. The main challenge that he faces is loneliness. In an office, the most fun part is the fact that you're able to chat with your friends, to laugh, to share a drink after work, and to tell good and bad stories. In order to face this problem, he started to go to open spaces and be able to see people that share the same situation as him. Another challenge he faced was time management. As mentioned before, he had to organize himself very well as he was his own boss. In order to overcome this difficulty, he used a time tracking software created and a created to-do list. One of the barriers he encountered in his professional life was time zone restrictions. He lived in France and worked for a company in the USA. This was a barrier since he could be there physically and needed to be reachable in American office hours. However, he managed to be able to work since he became a remote worker. He did not have restrictions on geography or time, so he could be anywhere and went everywhere. What helped him the most was his motivation of becoming a remote worker and seeing that there was more people that were in the same place as him. Building a community where people could subscribe to his service helped him to build his company and see there was a lot of potential. What also helped him was writing a book on his free time. Even though he might not make a lot of money on the book, he did it because he liked it. Failures and lessons. He did not have any experience when he started and did not know about the sector. He learned a lot by doing research to the internet. Also, he learned how to manage people and learned that the workplace environment is very different in the US than in Europe. In France and continental Europe, it's mostly managed by peasants, not by objectives, as if I want to see you sitting in a chair. However, you can't see their screen, so maybe they're on Facebook and being unproductive. The trust environment is not high enough in Europe. Instead, in the US, management is done by objectives. In conclusion, the most important lesson he learned is that remote workers has to be able to adapt to situations and know the working environment is going to vary from one country to another.